Hello, welcome to another episode of Full Circle with me, Onyx. And what is on my mind? Why we don't heal, why we don't evolve. How come we're in hot water, the ship is sinking, and yet we do nothing? Why can't we recognize that we're in danger, that things aren't working? And I kind of feel like there's two things stopping you. Some people call it dopamine fix. You're looking for those small hits that you get through media, and little moments of validation, that brief high when you see something shiny and new and you buy it and you imagine what you're going to do with that thing, and so we kind of, then we move on to the next one. Oh, that bag of chips, that first bite of the potato chip, the anticipation of that show that you're watching, and then round and around and around, we live in a coping mechanism called your life. And it seems like, so it's very inverted, this process of digging your own grave, of not, as soon as you notice your life is repetitive, as soon as, these negative feelings, these moods, these states come over you, that's actually a signal that you're looping. And so our whole world is built basically on hypnotic loops. Our coping mechanisms to survive another day, to deal with ourselves, they're all loops. The dialogue in our head is basically only repeating stuff that it knows. And so I would say this is the biggest hurdle, is recognizing. It's kind of like lucid dreaming. You're in a dream, you don't know you're dreaming, and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, this doesn't look right, or this feels, oh, I'm in a dream. In that moment when you realize you're in a dream, when you become conscious in it, you've become what they like to call lucid. Which really, I think it should be the opposite. When you're unconscious that you're dreaming, it's lucid, you know? And when you become conscious, they should call it something different. Like conscious dreaming. You're consciously dreaming. You know you're dreaming. So you're conscious. There's nothing liquidy or like in my mind when I hear lucid, I think of like bleeding walls, like melting paint, swirling, swirling colors, kind of things getting blurry and distorted, things abstracting, like breathing, contracting and expanding, like things get flexible, they get liquidy. So when I think lucid, I think that. And that's really the feel of a dream. That's also the feeling of your stuckness. These moods, these seem to come out of nowhere and take over. This overthinking seems to come out of nowhere and take over your life. And so to cope with it, we jump into another distraction, another loop to compartmentalize the trauma we're going through. Yes, you're not broken, you're human. You're having a human experience. But in order to have, but the human experience isn't designed to keep you in loops and stuckness. It's designed for you to wake up in your fullness and your clarity and live a full human experience. That means you have choice. That means you have expression. That means you have freedom. That means, and so Anyways, that is the first biggest hurdle, this kind of like hypnotic trance that we call life, that we have accepted as our life. I'm going to go in a little deeper as I feel so intuitively inspired to. Uh, why do we need to? Why do we? How is this even possible that we can get stuck in a mold, get stuck in a rut, get stuck in an identity, and how is it that we become flexible and then we solidify and take shape into a form? This is part of adaptability. This is a part of free will. This is a part of choice. Without your ability to, kind of like water, if you can't liquefy again and you get frozen into the shape of the container you were in, you're stuck. So you could literally say your life is frozen and you take a shape, and that's great. But you're also meant to thaw, become liquid again, or even vapor, move about, be fluid and flexible, and enjoy life. And then when you want to anchor into a new experience, a new relationship, a new job, a new career, a new mindset, a new version of you, you liquefy and then solidify or allow yourself to be received into that new version of you, that new experience. Okay? So it's an adaptability thing. It works in your favor. Unfortunately, when you're not aware of it and it has a purpose, you get stuck. You turn into an iceberg. You know, you're frozen. You're locked into a pattern on repeat. Repetition is important. Without repetition, you dissolve into possibility. Nothing sticks. You don't get to experience it unless it's frame by frame on repeat. Okay? So all these supposedly negative things built into the programming, built into the mechanics of living in reality, though they seem negative, it's not something you go against. You have to see its function and its purpose and then repurpose it, utilize it. So you're seeing that when you start looking at life maybe mechanically, not so much as in myth and metaphor, not so much as psychology, but more mechanically, you can really help yourself out. I don't think you've spent 40 years looking at life mechanically. You might need a technician of life, aka some form of life coach that specializes in the language that works for you. Okay? So, so much was on level one. Why we don't change, why we don't recognize we're actually in danger, why we actually need help, but we refuse it. That was the trance, the being stuck. What is the other one? Let me try to remember. Oh my, I should have taken notes. When all this information just comes to me, I should just take notes. Come on. Okay. I'm thinking it's because you have been in that first reason why. The second one is foreign to you. You have no idea what is out there. You have no idea that there are people who have structure, who can navigate life very well without the fluff, without the excessive validation, trophying, candying, sweets, without the religion, required faith and belief, without law of attraction stuff, without this acceptable packaged format. No, there's actually a level of self-mastery uh, that you can develop. It takes work, you know? It's not really all about psychology, but yeah, there's some of that in there. You know what? I am losing my thought on that. Hold on, let me take a breather. Okay. I think I've gathered my focus. So, the second reason why it kind of has two parts to it. How dynamic and confusing are we as humans? Okay, take a bow. The first dynamic is your this lifestyle that you have, this coping mechanism of a life that you call your life, you know, as good as it gets, what you've karmically been allotted to, whatever, is probably highly stressful. It's wearing you out. You get anxiety, you get burnout, you feel depressed, you feel uninspired, you have no energy, and then, you find some, you go out and do what you have to do, and the cycle repeats over and over again, okay? So your neurological system is someone has thrown, so I like to visualize like in a movie there's some electrical thing that has to happen. We have to raise shields or we have to turn something off or the whole ship will blow up. And then we need someone to go down and grab that lever, that old lever that should have been replaced, and flip the switch. And of course, you go down to flip the switch and it's stuck. And then you have to unstuck it. And then right at the nick of time, you pull that lever, and shields raise, or power gets turned on, or power gets turned off. This switch needs to happen. People can't receive, can't understand, can't get clear enough to understand they're in danger, to understand that someone's offering them assistance and it's actually beneficial. It's not a sales pitch. It's not something you have to believe, take a risk. It's not something that, oh, you have to prove it to me first in order for me to then accept it and swallow this pill, this other thing that everyone else is trying to sell me. This lever has to be switched. The light has to be turned on or off. And so we get stuck, like in the first reason, we get stuck to this cycle neurologically, chemically, and in that stuckness of hypervigilance, in crisis mode, in anxiety, in depression, we all have like a go-to emotion or go-to mood cycle. That is, once again, we become conscious. Oh, I need to throw that lever, that switch. Guess what? Who has pointed out where it is? Let's go. Computer, where is the switch to turn off the engine just before we like crash into that mountain? Where is the lever to raise shields? Turn auxiliary power. Whatever the show is. Okay, Star Trek. Who knows? You've never gone down to level 13. You don't know where it's at. You didn't know we had a map. You didn't know this section of the ship was outdated and parts needed to be replaced, but we never did that. We have to use this old map. It's not up on the new map. It's not on the screen. It wasn't put into the program. Oh, so here you are in danger, living your life, not enjoying it. Okay? Sign number one, you're not enjoying your life. Oh, what is the meaning of life? Joy, experience, but especially joy. We need to find that switch. We need to throw that switch. When that switch is thrown, relaxation, peace, alignment, clarity. For some people, they need that switch turned off. I would say a majority. We're going to work, we're living lives, we have obligations and duties to raise kids, family, loved ones, show up to work on time, do our job. You know, uh, we're like kind of stuck in survival mode. All signs that that lever needs to be switched off. So you're not trained in grounding. You're not trained in being present, in breath work. You know, it was kind of sold to you in a different way, called spirituality, called religion, called yoga. It wasn't um, brought to your attention as reality hacking. It wasn't brought to your attention as a mechanical thing to take back control of your nervous system, which then takes back control of your chemical endocrine system, your biology. So it's like life is pushing you around. But once you get back in the driver's seat by learning how to ground, so like once you understand, oh, this is why we do it, this is the value of it. Oh, now I will do that. Now I'll add that this is a survival skill, learning how to turn on and off the power, learning how to turn on and off the generator for when the power does go out. So some people, you need to flip the switch on. Okay? So it's very confusing for people. They're like, do I need to turn the switch off? Do I need to turn the switch on? Uh, you've been on so long, system failure, burning out, parts flying. You need to turn it off. We need to go into recovery mode first. So you see what's going on. So once you have flipped the lever, so this is kind of what happens when you go to therapy. This is what happens when you go into like a very nurturing experience, like your yoga, or talk to someone who has a very soothing voice. It starts to flip the switch and you feel therapy. Okay, that's a good start. You've now flipped the switch. You had other people flipping the switch for you. Hey, can you go down to level 13 and flip the switch so we can get the ship moving, or get the shields raised, or turn it off so we can run a few diagnostics, fix that, fix the warp drive, and then move on our journey. So you see how, so a lot of, so we live in a system where either providing a service, or you're providing a product, or you're providing a service as a product. You're in consumer mode and you haven't learned how to run your own ship. You've never been down to level 13. In an emergency situation called your life, called living, you're not capable. This is the difference. So when people say, oh, I've done the inner work, what they're saying is, I've learned to go down to level 13. I drew my own map. There wasn't a map. I've run simulations. I learned to turn on and off. I even upgraded the system. I went down there and I realized the person who installed this was an idiot. And so I, in my own genius, fixed that lever, updated it, added a few modifications. That's empowered living. That is what we call life coached and coaching. So the reality of the process is you do the work. In therapy, they're fine with just being a mirror. They're fine with you being broken. I feel like the whole system is fine with you not doing it. Sure, I'll do it for you. I'll be the plumber. I'll be the Mr. Fix-It. I'll be your teacher. I'll be your president. I will be someone to advise you. So there's this mass assumption. They're just going to give me a technique. Here's a new yoga pose. You do the breath. Great. On your way, right? Kind of transactional experience. For transformative life coaching or true life coaching, it's not, I'm going to give you some inspirational quotes and you go live your day. Then check back in with me. We're going to go after those goals. That is, in my mind, not real service. It's not real training. It's not real work. Real work is, oh, I'm actually going to have to journal. I'm actually going to have to look at my beliefs. I'm going to see how inverted I have been trained all my life to think the green square is a red square and the red square is a green square. You have been trained all your life, inside out, upside down, and backwards. So when people are actually here to help you and assist you and have real information to assist you, you have been trained to assume it's the opposite. You're here to sell me something. You're here to take advantage of me in my moment of weakness. It's too hard, you know? And so you have to convince me now I need your assistance. And of course, we reject them. It's a hard no. It's a, I'll think about it later. No, I won't. Bye. Scary. So we get triggered. Our alarm system goes off. It's backwards. So this is this part two, second part of part two. So besides flipping that lever, which recalibrates us into sanity, now we're confronted with the biggest obstacle of all, which is the core of belief work. Is first, in case no one has told you, you're living in a backwards world. Everything is turned upside down. Yes is no, no is yes. What? The information has been scrambled. It's designed for confusion. It's designed for complacency, status quo. You know, I don't really think there's some big force out there keeping humanity down. I think it's just all the noise. And so, let's face it, people are unhealthy. People get different ideas about things. People have different ways of comprehending things. Don't you think with all that variety, that information, by the time it gets to you, might be a little inside out, a little backwards, a little twisted? Yeah. So this, let's all agree this is the facts. Let's all agree this is the truth. Let's all agree. Well, the information's not coming in clear. So it's a huge wake-up call to realize, oh, I had that backwards. Some people like to softly call it backwards thinking. How do you know you're in backwards thinking? Well, does this sound familiar? Every time I try, the opposite happens. I get rejected. I get a hard no. Every time I do this, and this, I meet its opposite. Confrontation, conflict. Maybe there's a belief in there that's upside down and backwards. Well, I was taught, yeah, you bought, you subscribed to. So, backwards thinking, not knowing how to throw the lever, to turn on and off, to recalibrate, to balance. This is what Joe Dispenza's work was about. He liked to call it coherence. He relabeled things. Instead of using the word balance, instead of using the word, basically harmony, he uses the word coherence. Do you have harmony between your brain and your heart? Okay, so people have different terminologies. We're all speaking the same thing. Great. So we got loops that we're living in. the hypnotic trance. We have the switch that needs to be thrown for you to recalibrate, to bring your center, to turn on the, to get sane again, get clear enough to recognize information. And then we have a few backwards beliefs that actually have trained you to say no to the things you actually want and need. And yes to more distractions. Yes to more dopamine fixes. Yes to more escapism. You have three obstacles. Someone presenting, someone who really actually can help you. They have three obstacles to get through, and it's really not them who can get through it, which is the essence of life coaching. I can't exactly live your life for you. I can't really get into your body and do it for you like you've been taught, like you blame your parents, like you blame your teachers, like you blame the system. If you're in blame, there's a huge signal we got some inverted thinking going on. These assumptions, this mass agreement that isn't part of reality, that isn't part of the blueprint, that isn't part of the sane, rational, basic pattern of life. Okay? Oh, you mean you can actually give me a few techniques, train me, work with me to ground, to center, to align? Yeah, I've been doing it forever. I had to. Sink or swim. Your life is sink or swim. You know, do you want to be pulled into other people's reality or do you want your own? Okay? Do you want to be a people pleaser or do you want to please yourself? So whatever your goals are, whatever your needs are, you know, whatever this pain alleviation is, the pattern is the same. So who has the time to do 40 years of research, 40 years of training? You're drowning now. Go find someone who has already done it. They have lived the experience. They are the total package deal. They didn't go to school and learn. They lived and learned. And they survived it. And they took that information and they can present it to you to help you. So it's actually really easy. Once you throw that lever, I mean, I have given you all the tools. I'm in hypnosis. I need to wake up and become conscious. Yes. I need to throw that lever, the on and off, at will so I can control it. So I can control my internal environment and my external environment. So I can feel empowered energetically and don't have spiritual symptoms or mental and emotional dysfunction. Yeah. So you're calibrated. So you're in alignment. Yes. And I need to do some belief work. I need to be willing to look at some of these beliefs that have been running my life. And I need to actually challenge them, look at them, examine them. Some of them might actually be inside out and backwards. Some of them might not be serving me. And if I was able to untwist them or dismantle them or even replace them, I can become the owner of my life. I can upgrade my vehicle. I can literally build myself a new self. Yeah. Wow. Well, I would like that. I would like relationships that work, communication style that doesn't feel like aggression. You mean I don't have to go through life using anger as a tool? I don't have to weaponize emotions? You mean I don't have to use psychic shields and sigils and magic spells and prayers to get through life? Yeah. You mean I can find clarity without subscribing to religion? I don't need a guru. I don't need to pray. I don't need to light candles. I don't need to believe. I don't need to have faith. Yeah. Wow. So I don't need to learn a whole new language. I don't need how to I don't need how to twist and modify myself into something else. I'm going to literally do the opposite. I'm going to untwist myself and embody myself fully to live my life fully and experience that joy. And that's going to show up in my life like relationships, like more pay, like being heard, being seen, naturally being honored and valued for the powerful person that I am. It's not just lip service. Wow. Sign me up. How much is that worth? Well, how much pain are you in? What do you need to let it get that far? So here's the thing. When you are drowning, you're not really available to have life coaching. When you're already in the depths of it, completely depressed, completely dysregulated, you're not in a position to receive coaching. When you're so hardwired backwards and you're just going to bulldoze through life painfully backwards, and you have accepted this is how life is. I'm going to somehow fight for this scraps of an existence. You're not coachable. Wow. That's so if you find yourself you're not really sinking and swimming, good indicator. You have some time to work. If you have somehow found a way to flip that switch, oh, that's what I'm doing in yoga. Oh, that's why I like that therapist. Oh, that's why I like that song. It starts to regulate me. It calms me down. I kind of instinctively have a process of flipping that switch. That's a good sign you're ready for coaching. If you are self-reflective, if you are kind of like, oh, yeah, I've noticed these beliefs from that generation don't really fit me. I notice I gravitate towards this. This feels right. You're in a position, you're open enough to receive new information. You're ready for life coaching. If you're like, yeah, I can kind of do life and, I can get by, there are some inconveniences, things come up every now and then,